Okay, YouTube, so what we're going to do today is I'm going to attempt to film this video of doing a front wheel bearing assembly. This is on a 2004 Jeep Liberty, and it does not have ABS in it, so we need to make sure that when you go to order the part number that you order the one with the correct part that you need that does not have the ABS sensor if your vehicle does not come equipped with that. This wheel bearing here, if you wiggle it back and forth, you can actually, it's hard to probably see in the actual video, but you can see the actual wheel is literally shaking back and forth. So first thing I'm going to do is we obviously jacked it up, supported it safely with jack stands. I'm also going to do the brakes on the front of this, the rotors and the pads as well. But in the process of doing that, I may make that into a second video. It all depends on how this all plays out. So first things first, we got it jacked up and supported. We're going to go ahead and loosen these. It's a lot easier if you have air tools, obviously, but you can do this with basic hand tools. I recommend to loosen the wheel while the vehicle is still on the ground. At least get these cracked loose if you do not have air tools. Otherwise, you'll be fighting with it with the wheel spinning. Usually a wheel bearing has a pretty distinctive groaning noise or grinding noise to it. This one was actually sounded like a metal on metal. It was really bad. It would come and go, and that's when you have to get worried, because when the noise stops and comes back, from what I've been told in the past, that's usually a sign that it's going to leave town on you. Okay, so this is your basic brake setup here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first remove the brake caliper, which is by taking these fasteners out back here. I'm going to have to pull you in so you can see better. So you got the, hard to see, this camera has bad zoom. So you have your brake caliper, your rotor. These are your studs that are coming part of the hub. We're going to go ahead and take out, I don't know if the sun's going to blind us out, these fasteners here. There's one here, and there's one here, and then there's some down behind here that hold the bracket on. I don't know if I'm going to get those in the video or not. So the one here is right here that holds the bracket on, and it's down. There should be another one down in here somewhere, which you probably won't be able to see because it's too dark, but I'll give you sizes as I go because I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm not too worried about how I take this stuff off because I'm putting new brakes on rotors, pads anyway, so I'm not too concerned about being dainty with it. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and take those off, and then I will click you back on once I get tools set up. Okay, got a little different view here for you of the caliper. I'm going to go ahead and take these upper caliper bolts out that hold it on here. Let me make sure we're unloosened. I'll probably make a little noise here once I get that clicked in. So put these aside. Alright. Loosen this one up down here. Alright, took that out, put that aside. That is a 12 millimeter on mine. Got these little hooks I got on the Amazon for holding this. Now sometimes you have to get a screwdriver in here and try to compress the, might need something bigger. If you get in here, you can kind of pry on the rotor a little bit and pull the, sometimes you can do this, it doesn't always work. Pull the caliper back a little bit, and what this does, it helps compress it a little bit so you can get the caliper off like that more easily. Now you normally don't want to hang it from the hose, so I got these little S hooks. I'm going to try to slide in there, and I'm going to hang it from the control arm up here. And then now we're going to move on to the bottom ones, which I believe are 21 millimeter. So let's see if you're in focus here. Sorta. So here and up here they're going to be 21 millimeter, is the bracket here. I'm probably going to have to crack them loose with a breaker bar here before I get too carried away with trying to use impacts. Alright, did that one. Sometimes that happens. Get a little rusty. Sometimes if you hit the bolt, it breaks off some of the rust. Oh, that's really rusty. Okay. Get up in there. Oh, jeez. There we go. Ooh, that one was really tight. Okay. Alright. So now, get this off of here again. You can probably take your pads out, set them aside too. Get them out of the way. Okay. Kind of give it a tap, get the socket back off. Okay, now we can get the air gun in there. Make our life a little easier. Alright, we're going to put our impact here and then zip them out. So unloosen. Takes that right out. Put them in the dish. Beware, this will fall. Like that. So be ready for it. Have your knee out of the way. Put the caliper bracket aside. Like I said, we're going to be doing brakes on this too. Not sure if that'll be in this video or not, but put that aside. If you're reusing all of that stuff, just take care of it, especially the rotor. If you're going to be reusing the rotor, just make sure you put it in a safe place as well. Now we got our wheel bearing. So the wheel bearing is this whole hub assembly right here. And so what we got to do is go in from behind. There's one on top, two here, or two on the bottom, one on top, three total in a triangle. And it requires a special, I think it's called an inverted torque socket. Now, I gotta figure out what size it is because I can't remember. I had done a wheel bearing on this before, but it's been quite some time, so I got to try to remind myself here. I have to put an extension on there so I can get in there. Alright. See if I can get in there somehow. Once I can get on it, I can see. Alright, I think we'll know for sure here in a moment, but I think the correct size for it, it says it's an E14. It has like this, like an inverted hex. So we'll put that aside because we're going to need that shortly. Now the next thing we're going to need to do is get this big axle nut off of here. This is what holds your CV axle in if you have the four-wheel drive model. So we're going to zip that off here. I'll let you know the size. I think it's a 35 millimeter. I don't know. I use the 36, I believe, and it takes it off, but it's a little loosey on there. So that on there. Now it's a good idea to spray it down with some penetrating fluid here, just so that helps ease it off. We're going to also soak down the backs because the fasteners that hold the E14s that hold the hub to the knuckle, they're exposed, the threads a little bit. So you can try to give them a little love with the penetrating fluid too to see if it helps to do anything. If you can grab one of the wheel bearings, see the box that says the long skinny box there, it should be in a blue box. Just be careful it doesn't fall out the box and hitch on the toe. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and try to do this. Okay, yeah, see that's a little loose on there. It's a 36 millimeter, but it'll work. I don't know if I need the big gun or if the little gun will take it off. We'll try the little gun first. See what happens. Yeah, it's sometimes a good idea too to break this loose while the wheel's still on the ground, because sometimes what you'll run into is you can't get this loose, And I also made a crucial mistake too. Even if the wheel's off the ground, you could still put something in the brakes, like a screwdriver, to keep it from spinning. So hopefully this actually takes this off. Eventually it will come off. What I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to wait for the air compressor to fill up, so I'm going to pause you for a minute while that happens. Okay, apologies for all the noise. I did finally get it loose. I had to wait for the air compressor to build up some more pressure. Alright, so you want to hang on to this because the new wheel bearing does not come with, the one I got, which is from 1A Auto, does not come with this. So before we go too far, you want to make sure the axle can go and slide properly inside of here, and it does not. So what you want to do is spin your axle nut back on a little bit, because you don't want to mar up the threads on this, and give it a couple hits, and that looks like that made it start to move. So I'm going to actually give it a little bit of a squirt here. Hopefully that'll help ease it in there better. Alright, now she's loose. I can see it. It's not going all the way in because it's not supposed to, but I can see it is moving, sliding in there. So that's what you want. So we're going to slide this off, back off again. We're going to put that in a safe place. And then I'm going to try to turn this back out again. Crap. Can you do me a favor? Don't start it. Just put the key, just kind of put the key in sort of the run position. So I think the steering wheel locked. I thought I had it in there far enough that it wouldn't lock up, but apparently. Don't step on the brake. Alright. Yeah, you could just, can you just turn the key back a little bit? That should be fine. Alright, you're good. You can leave it be. I'll get up if I have to again. Alright, so now we need to grab that E14. Hopefully that's what it was. A little rusty. That box is blown away. That I might need it again if this bearing is garbage. We're going to go ahead in here. It's going to be hard to see. I don't know how well this is going to show up here, but try to get in there so you can see it. Probably not going to see it. Actually, you can see the shiny head of the bolt, which is right there. That's the Torx that you got to get on with this thing here. So that's what I'm going to be working on here, is working on trying to get those loose. So if you're wondering what I'm doing, that is what I'm doing. You want to make sure it's on there good, because these don't look very happy, unfortunately. I'm going to try getting them with the breaker bar first, because I just have the sneaking suspicion they're not going to be wanting to play very nice. Because if they break, then game's over. Okay, good. So once you get them started, you can use some kind of possibly air tool or something to keep them going. There's one up top here. I gotta get my head in there so I can see it. Make sure it's all the way on there. Oh, let's see, that's what I was afraid of. Can't get in there. I don't want to block your view, but I can't see either. Alright, let's see if I'm on there now. Yeah, you really got to kind of hold it on there steady, because you don't want it to round these. Jeez. Okay, I think it's going. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why Chrysler chose to use this style. It reminds me of like a German car. They like to do that kind of stuff. These weird Torx bits, or inverted Torx, or whatever they call them. Very bizarre to me. Now there's another one here, so I'm going to have to turn the wheel. You can go over there and turn the, grab the wheel and push the front of the wheel towards me. Well, or that way. Turn it to the right. All the way. Don't be afraid of it. There you go. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so there's one Hopefully you're still within view here. There's going to be one in here that's a little bit more tricky. It's on the bottom. Try to get on it here. Can't see. I think I'm on it good enough. Alright. Jeez. There we go. Good. Okay. That's one of the bigger part of the battles, because if those don't come loose, then, like I said, you're you're going to be taking it to a shop and letting somebody else deal with it at that point. Oh, man. Yeah, they get pretty rusted here in the rust belt, so... give it a little more penetrating here. I could have used my air tool, but I'm already this far. Sometimes it's just easier just to use the old elbow grease. Okay. Now you gotta watch, because sometimes you paint yourself into a corner here. I don't have any rags. My hands are greasy. I can't spin it. Okay. Okay, so that's what this guy looks like. Like I said, it's that really crazy looking torque. So I'm going to try to clean them up a little bit before I put them back together. And then I'm going to pause you while I remove the other two. You may have to, like I said, turn this back and forth to give you the access you need. So hold tight. We'll be back. Okay, so we're back on here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to... we got the rest of the bolts out. Like I said, they were the whatever I said they were. What, E14s? I believe they were. Is that they are? I just want to make sure I gave you the right. Yeah, E14 reverse torques, I guess it's called. Got those out. There's 3 of them. Like I was saying, that's what they look like here. Kind of hard to see probably. One up top, one here, and one down on the bottom. So 2 on the bottom, 1 on top, just like a triangle. Put them aside. I'm going to clean those up. Now, really, the only thing holding the bearing on is rust. Now, there's a lot of different procedures for getting this off. I'm going to just try to hit it with a hammer, because obviously I'm replacing it anyway. So we'll see what happens here. It looks like it already moved already, so that's good. Sometimes it's, you got to get it at some different angles here. There we go. And then that your hub or your CD axle just pops out. There you go. So this is your old bearing, which I don't know if you heard that. It's not supposed to sound like that. It's supposed to make no noise. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead. I have some of these fancy tools here, obviously, because I play with cars all the time. I'm going to go ahead and try to maneuver some of these tools out the way. And I'm going to clean up this surface here where everything mounts, because it gets pretty rusty with this roll-lock wheel angle grinder. And that's going to clean up a lot of this gunk so that the new bearing that I put on doesn't get so seized on there. You got to be careful with these because they take a lot of material off. The problem is, though, when this has been on there, probably the original bearing, it's hard to say. It may have been replaced, but it looks like the original. I have a rust lip around here that goes around where the bearing is. The rust actually started to swell. So what I need to do is I'm trying to even this rust lip, which you guys that don't live in the Rust Belt, you don't have to worry about this, but trying to even it up. So if it looks like I'm going crazy on here, you don't normally do that, but because of rust, I kind of have to. So instead of recording this whole time, I'm going to work on cleaning this up, and then I'll bring you back once I get a little further. Okay, we're back on. Like I said, I used the angle grinder to kind of clean this up. You want this to be nice and flush. You got to be careful, like I said, you don't want to take too much material off this because you'll end up actually ruining things. So what I'm going to do, use some classic brake cleaner here. I'm just going to give it a good clean off here. Clean everything off really, because like I said, it's all dirty. Okay, now we're just going to kind of let that drip dry for the moment, and while that drip dries, I'm going to go ahead and clean my glasses. Okay, we're back, guys. So, like I was saying, I finished cleaning that up. Had to change my glasses out. What I'm going to use just some fluid film here, and I'm just going to spray it mainly where the hub's going to be mounting. You want to clean around inside the hole there too, pretty good. Doesn't hurt if you get on the axle. If anything, will help with threads. So, I'm going to wait for the wind to stop here, because I'm going to start spraying this stuff, and it's going to go everywhere. Alright, so we're just going to kind of give it a nice little gentle coat of the fluid film and going around there a little bit. This will keep the bearing, hopefully, when I go to keyword when I have to change this again, I'll be able to get it back out. So the bearing, like I said, I got from 1aauto.com. I'm not too sure about the quality yet. I noticed when I got it, there's a bunch of grease coming out of the front grease seal, and the other one feels like it's already got some grinding to it. So time will tell, but in the meantime, we gotta get this done. So you're gonna start off by kind of working it on here, getting it onto the axle, and then it's gotta go in there like that. Then you gotta get one of your bolts ready. I'm gonna probably block the camera here. Find the hole here. And kind of get it started into the bearing. So, not left-handed is the problem here. So, basically what you got to do is you've got to kind of get that to cooperate with the CV axle and get it so it's in there, like so. And then you got to get this bolt to come through the back and start threading in. But like I said, this style bolt I'm not a big fan of because they don't give you anything to really hold on to with that style. I'm going to try to do it with the socket, see if I can get on it better. Where's the socket wrench? It's kind of hard to record. I apologize if it's going to... At least it's giving you the general idea what I'm doing here anyway. Usually I don't like to start stuff with a socket wrench, but it's kind of hard when you can't get in there with your hand. Okay. Come on. Yeah, I might have to just do this off camera because I need to be right where you're at, and I don't want to obviously just videotape my backside for the next couple minutes. So, but yeah, it's a struggle because you gotta get it on there, get it in there like that, and then you gotta hold it there, and then you gotta try to get the head started on it so you can pull it in. Which I might have actually got it on that one. Let me try seeing what happens here. Yeah, I think I got it. Oh, maybe not. Nope. So yeah, I'm gonna stop you because I'm just gonna get frustrated, and I don't want to do that when I'm standing in front of the camera and you can't see anything. But that's the goal, is to go through and get the threads to start in there. Okay, so I got those all started. Like I said, didn't film it because I had to get like right up in the camera here to get up and behind here and see what I was doing. So they're all 3 started. Axles splined in properly. Now, I'm sure this is probably going to get people having a fit saying, you can't do it this way, you got to get it all the way seated into the thing. It doesn't work that way. Trust me. You can try, I mean, but it never seems to get all the way onto the spline of the CV axle, which always ends up being the issue at hand. So let me try to get on that. Oh man, did I have that on loose? And crap. That's not good. All right, let's try that again. Tap right here. I think it's on tight. Okay. I forgot to check. Alright, so what you want to do is go around here and get on each one and work each one here. Find the other one there. That way you're evenly pulling the bearing, in. I don't know if I'm going to get on it with this one. Kind of a hard place to get to. It'd be easier, like I said, if I could get up in here and look at it, but I'm trying to give you guys the view. I'm going to have to get up in there and look because I can't see. Okay, there, we're on it. Okay, so now that they're all pretty much down and torqued down, we're going to go back on this one again. And I'll torque them by hand. No, I do not know what the correct foot-pound torque is for it. I did not look it up. I go to the good old-fashioned good and tight. I'm sure you could probably Google it, obviously, and get those torque specs. Alright, so now that that is done, I'm going to go ahead and torque these down so they're tight for my liking. Now, you don't want to over tighten them because you will crack these bearings. That should be good. Like I said, you don't want to, it's kind of a use your brain type of thing, you know, when you're torquing these. You don't want them too tight because then you'll never get them back out again. Down to this one here, we'll pull the wheel back out. So now, go down to this one. There's also going to be a torque specification for the axle nut too. I'm sure you can get that on the interwebs too. Okay, so that's pretty much a wheel bearing. On this it's easy because there's no ABS involved. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and get that nut put back on here. And I like to get it started always by hand. I'm going to put a little fluid film behind it and on the threads. And I will run this down with the impact and double check the torque on it. Once that's done, now it's just a matter of, you know, putting your caliper bracket back on, you know, with your 21 millimeter, or I'm sorry, back, yeah, right here, with your 21 millimeter fasteners, and then you can swing your caliper back onto your rotor. First put the rotor on, obviously, and then put your caliper bracket on and put your caliper back on. So I'm going to stop now and pause you for a second, because this is pretty much the ending of how to do the wheel bearing, and I'm going to stop and then I'm going to start on the brake portion. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is get you in film in view here. Let's actually see what I'm doing here. So I got the caliper there. We're going to compress the caliper in with a giant C-clamp. Normally what I do is I just use the old pad to put on there like that. And then you can go in and grab the... now you want to loosen your cap on your brake fluid reservoir just so you're not getting the... you know, the pressure pushing against the cap. It'll let the fluid up. You might get a little leaking out, so maybe put some rags or stuff, or even siphon some out. It's not a bad idea. So I'm just going to go ahead in here. I'm just using a C-clamp. I'm just compressing this piston in. Doesn't need to go very far because these brake pads actually are fine. The problem is they are rust jacking, which basically means the back plate is starting to swell up from the rust, and then the pads are sticking a little bit. So plus, I want to put all new hardware over here now that I got the new wheel bearing. So you just compress that in until you can't go anymore. And then what I like to do is to get a brush here, which I don't know where my other brush went. Is there a wire brush over there? I don't see it. Is it underneath something? Oh, here it is. I got it. Okay. So I take a wire brush and just kind of clean this up. Now, this, like I said, depending on how your climate you live in, you may have to actually go the extra step to take and either replace the caliper if it's too rusty, or sometimes you can use like a file on these to clean up the caliper ears, because you don't want anything on these because they'll mess with the alignment of the pad. You want your piston to be clean here. You want to be careful because there is a rubber boot in here. I'm being somewhat gentle. Just getting the big stuff off here. Okay. So inspect your caliper. Make sure there's no holes or anything that's, you know, going to cause you a problem, or leaks or anything. Like I said, these actually aren't too bad. So I might take a flathead screwdriver because I didn't bring my file out, and just kind of get these big chunks off here. Really not bad. Yeah, I'm going to grab a file and just go on these real quick. I still have to get some caliper grease anyway, so it's not going to really hurt. So let me do that. Alright, so what are you guys looking at here? Can't see anything. Okay, there we go. So basically just taking a square file, just kind of cleaning this up a little bit, getting these big chunks off these ears if there are any. Doesn't look too bad. I'm not going necessarily for perfection. I just don't want those pads to run crooked and wear unevenly. I know this is not the proper way to use a square file. I figured if one of you guys out there know the way, you probably wouldn't be watching my video because you're way smarter than me. So now we're going to move on to prepping the bracket. So you want to make sure that these have plenty of grease in them, your sliders here, which I believe I've had these off. They actually look pretty good. I might add a tad bit more, and I just use this Permatex grease here. Yeah, I'll just add a little. You don't want too much, but let's add a tad more just to make sure that. I like to go around where the rubber boot sits too. Keeps down on that corrosion from getting in there. Oh, dirt there. Okay. Just kind of rub it on there nice. And then put that back into your caliper bracket there. And burp it. See, that moves nicely. That's what you want to see. I'm going to check the other one here. Make sure it's good. Gotta be careful not to ruin your boot. Oh, come on, guy. There we go. Come on. Okay. This one also looks pretty good. I'm just gonna add a little more grease to it too, just to make sure. Like I said, I always try to get a little around where the rubber boot goes on, because that helps the boot from getting that water that gets in there and rust. And as you can see, that's what was causing me not to get that boot off there. Put a little more on there. You don't want too much, because I know I had kind of a balance. Alright, I'll slide that back in there. Alright, so make sure they move freely, and they do. Twist it around a little bit. Beautiful. So now we're going to focus on cleaning the bracket up, and what you want to do, you actually want to clean up where the hardware is going to be put for the metal stainless steel hardware goes for there. So we're going to do that. Sometimes I like to take these and put it in a vise in the garage and hit it with that. That way I know it's good and clean. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to go in the vise in the garage. I'm going to hit these with the wire wheel and clean them up a little better. So hold tight while I do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I took on the last clip of it thing, I'm just going to take some brake clean and just kind of give us a good little bath here. And then just right in those, clean them, make sure there's nothing in them holes. Okay, now, caliper bracket, I went ahead and I cleaned up the areas where the pads are going to be riding, so they'll be nice and clean. So that's to help to prevent any kind of rust tracking from occurring underneath the hardware. This one has a little bit of a lip there, which I cleaned. So I'm just going to give it a quick little squirt, get the brake dust off it. Alright, I'm real low on brake cleaner, so I'm going to stop there. Now I'm going to grab my rag, which I don't know what I did with, I'm just sitting on it, and clean it off a little bit. And then I'm going to take the new pads and get them ready. So it comes with these little clips. This is the hardware. Pretty sure they're the same. We're going to find out here in a minute. I'll lay them out for a second here. Take a little bit of grease. And what I do, which is I take a little bit of this Permatex and I just put a little dab in each of these where the ears of the pads are going to sit. And then I use my finger to kind of spread it around. What this does is this stops the, well, helps slow, let me rephrase that because we're in Pennsylvania. It helps slow the rust from building up in here, which causes like the pad to squeeze. And when it squeezes the pad, then it causes the pad to hang up, and then it causes your brakes to hang up and ruin premature brake pad wear. It just does all kind of bad stuff. So if I can slow it, I'll do it. Okay, so let's study this hardware. Some of these clips are a little different. Let's say they go on like this. Yeah, these are actually pretty nice. These are the Wagner pads that I got from the Amazon. They were like $22, I want to say. And I'm a Prime member, so it was like $22 and like free shipping. And I've used them before, and they're actually not bad. I mean, I've had some people have given them some bad reviews, but I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're not installing them correctly or what, but I've really had no problems, you know, with them. I've put them on both my parents' vehicles. They were the longest lasting, you know, brake pads that I've ever used on my dad's car. He drives a lot, so he's always a good testimony. So I don't know if I'm doing this right. Let me see here. I want to say that I'm doing this wrong, because these clips look a little odd. So I want to say that they are special. Alright. Yeah, I want to say they probably go like that. I didn't really pick a good day to record this. Unfortunately. It's so windy outside. Okay, I'm going to assume that they go something like this, where this is up like that. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. I just like to know they're all the same way. They're all pressed down and they're good. So the caliper bracket's ready to go. So now without further ado, what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to give this a quick wipe, make sure there's no big chunks of rust or debris or anything that's going to cause me any kind of an issue. And I'm going to give this a quick coat of the fluid film here. And what this does is it's going to hopefully help to keep the rotor, the new rotor. So I did clean the rotor off. These are the E-coated Wagner rotors, not a sponsor. I did already clean them off just in case there was any kind of oil or anything on them. And I'm going to try to, I might grab an axle nut from the garage because I don't think these will run down far enough just to hold everything in place. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I got an extra axle nut here. It helps. I put it on like this, throw the lug nut away on the ground, and then what this does, I'm just going to screw it on there just enough to keep the rotor from bouncing all over the place when you're trying to do this. So next thing I'm going to do is get the caliper bracket installed, and I'm going to turn this out a little bit so we can get to it better. Okay, now to do so, I went ahead of time and cleaned up the bolts for the mounting bolts for the bracket with the wire wheel. That helps to keep it from being so difficult to get to it. So what we're going to do is get this, or make them so they go in better, I should say. Go ahead in here and figure out what I'm doing here. What am I doing? This always gets me. I want to say it goes on, yeah, like that. Okay. Get this bottom bolt started. Really helps when you go through the extra trouble to clean them up, you know, these bolts. They may require Loctite, I don't know. I've never really bothered. And like I said, these are your 21 millimeters that you're working with here. Let me get my breaker bar loaded back up with the 21 millimeter again. Nope, that's a 19. Where'd the 21 go? Grrr. Never can find what you're looking for when you're making a video. Never fails. Well, don't know where the 21 millimeter went. Okay. Unless he took it over there. I don't think he did. Yeah, so I'm going to have to go get another 21 millimeter socket because I have no idea where that one took off to. Oh, here it is. It was behind the penetrating fluid. Okay. I'm sure there's also a torque on these. Like I said, there might even be a requirement of Loctite. I don't know. I'm not too worried about it. My personal vehicle, you know, I make sure everything's safe. I'm not too overly worried about that kind of stuff. I know they got to be good and tight, that's for sure. Okay, because you don't want your brakes coming off. Be a bad day. All right, now we can go ahead and get your brake pads ready here. Get them out. Don't think there's a difference between them that I can see out here. Look pretty much the same. Let me double check here and double look at them. And they look identical, so we're going to go ahead and just put these in there since they look the same. Get in there. There we go. Yeah, so you want your brake pads to have the ability to stay nice and free in there. So that looks good. They are movable, so it's a good thing. All right. Debating if I want to flip those clips around. I think I'm going to flip them clips around. I don't know. They look like they're on the right way, but I'm not a fan of the way they're sitting in there either. So let's try doing it like this instead. See, I should have looked when I took them off. Not. see if that makes any difference here. Make sure your pad's nice and clean. That might work better. Yeah, that's the way they go on. Okay, beautiful. So I had the clips backwards, so you might have to play around with it and study it a little bit. I'm just going to reverse them here real quick. On the ground. The back one's a little bit more tricky to film. That one's in. Of course, I get a bunch of dirt on that one. Yeah, fortunately, if my dad wasn't such a hoarder, I could be doing this in a nice warm garage without all the wind going on and earthquakes and everything else. It really has nothing of substance whatsoever. It's definitely a mental condition. I don't know. I don't understand it. Yeah, so that works better. So, yeah, so your pad should be able to move nice and freely like that. So that's good. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and get our caliper swung up. So what I like to do with the caliper is, you always want to make sure the hose is entangled, is I like to put a little bit of this Permatex on the grease here, the high temp caliper grease, just on the back of these. This helps cut out some of the noise. And also on the face of the piston. Also check to make sure too when you're doing this that your boot, there's like a rubber boot on your caliper here. You want to make sure it's not hung up in any way where it's going to, or it's got air in it, because sometimes you gotta burp the little rubber boot around here just to make sure, you know, because you don't want any air in there. And clean off some of the excess. You don't want it splattering all over the place. Okay, and I'm going to just turn this like that, because the reason why I turned it like that, the brake rotor hub, was because I want to make sure that I didn't get any grease on it. I'm going to clean that off whenever I get done here. Okay, so now it's just a matter of having my big head in the way and lining these up. Now you're going to grab your 12s that you had earlier that we originally started out with and get them threaded in by hand. Now you want these tight, but you don't want them over tight, because you're only going through, I think, like aluminum, so you don't want them to break. So grab my socket wrench here and my 12 millimeter, and I go ahead and tighten that down. Like I said, there's probably a torque spec for this. Now the most important thing is, before you do anything, after we get this all put back together, is to tighten up your, or pump your brakes before you go anywhere, and check your fluid level too on your brake reservoir, because I'm using a smaller hand tool so I can give it a little more. But yeah, you want to pump up your brakes a few times, because you don't want you put air, or you push the fluid back through, so this piston's no longer extended anymore from the wear of the old pad. So when you go to get in it and put it in gear, you're going to go flying over the hill or run into somebody. So before you put it in gear, pump up the brakes several times. Make sure you have a good brake pedal first, and that way that'll thing. But like I said, this should move nicely like this. The pads move nicely. Make sure your rubbers are all closed up nice. They're lubed. Hardware's installed. Everything's lubed up nice. And I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this back straight, double check my work. I'm gonna clean this off with some a clean end of this rag on a little bit of brake clean, just to make sure I didn't get any grease on it, because you don't want any hot spots on your rotor. And when you're in here, it's also a good time to go ahead and look at any areas that need to be greased, you know, lubed areas, you know, tie rod ends, anything that's serviceable that you can put grease on. So, but that's pretty much it, guys. Put your wheel on, torque the lug nuts, factory specs, pump everything up. So I don't know how this video is going to turn out. Like I said, it's kind of a wheel bearing / front brake job video. I may just compile it all to one. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if somebody's going to want to sit through the removal of the I don't know if somebody's going to sit through the removal of the hub assembly just to do a brake job. So I don't know. We'll see how it works. But either way, this video will be put up. It's not the greatest. It gives you a general idea. Look up your torque specs. It's not a great video, but it's going to give you the idea and give you a little more confidence to go ahead and get into something like this. But other than that, like I said, that's your brake job / possibly your wheel bearing assembly install. I'm not going to film the other side. I'm going to go just do it just to get it done. Thanks for watching. I appreciate all the support I get on the channel. And keep looking for those videos. They should be coming out more now that the weather's going to start getting better. And I thank you guys once again for watching the Blazer Guy 1983 channel. Have a great day.